In this AP Calculus example, we're being asked to determine the area of the region enclosed by the graphs of y equals 4x minus x squared and y equals x. To do this, this is an integral setup that you just have to know. To determine the area between two curves, the integral setup looks like this. It would be the integral from a to b of whichever equation is on top, whichever equation is above the other equation, minus whichever equation is on bottom, and then dx. So to do this, the first thing we have to determine is which of these two graphs is the top graph and which is the bottom graph. And lucky for us, we are in a calculator allowed section. So we can do this using our calculator pretty quickly. We're going to start by taking our first equation, the square root of 4x minus x squared, and we'll put that into y1. And then in y2, we'll put that second equation, x. So step one of the process here when you're doing this is you just want to determine which of these is on top and which of these is on bottom. We're really just looking to set up this integral. So we open up the calculator, go into our y equals, and type in our two equations. So we've got the square root of 4x minus x squared into y1, and then in y2 we have x. So I'm going to go ahead and graph those. Note that the blue graph, the graph that will come in first, is the square root graph. The red graph is the x graph. So I graph them, and what I can see is I've got this region on the left-hand side here where the blue graph is above the red graph. So that's the region that we're talking about. That's the region bounded. So to start setting this up, I'm going to take the blue graph first. So then putting this together, we would end up with the antiderivative. The blue graph is the top graph. That was this graph here. So that's going to be the square root of 4x minus x squared. When you subtract this, notice that I put parentheses around the bottom equation. It's not a big deal if your graph is just the graph of x, but if it is anything more complicated, you always want to put that bottom equation in parentheses. So just to keep track of that, I'm going to put mine in parentheses here. Now what we need to do is we need to go find the bounds for this region. Well, the bounds usually are going to come from finding where these two graphs intersect each other. And so we've already got them graphed, so now we can kind of continue on this process and find where those two graphs intersect. We'll hit second. We'll choose the calc menu at the top of the calculator, and then inside that calc menu, we're going to choose the number 5 option, intersect. And we'll go through that process twice to find our two bounds. So I'm going to hit second, calc, the button above trace at the very top of the calculator there, and then inside that menu, I'm going to choose the intersect option. So from there, it's going to ask me a series of 3 questions. The first two you normally could care less about. It's going to say, is that the first curve? Yep, that's the first curve. Go ahead and hit enter. It's then going to switch automatically to the second curve for us and say, is that the second curve? Yep, that's the second curve. Go ahead and hit enter again. It's the third question here, the guess, that really matters. And so in this situation, I'm going to guess where I'm at right now because that's where I think the first intersect is happening. It's when you use the guess, the calculator is just wanting you to put it near where you think it's happening. You're not determining the answer. You're just pointing the calculator in the right direction. So I hit enter a third and final time. You'll know you've done everything properly because it will say the word intersection at the bottom of the screen, and whatever that x value is, that's what we want. So our lower bound on this region is going to be x equals 0. So x equals 0 will be our bound right there. To find the other intersect, we just repeat the same set of steps. We hit second, calc, choose again that number 5 option, intersect. First curve, just hit enter. Second curve, just hit enter. And then from there, we're going to scroll up to the right on this, and we're going to hit enter again when it asks us to guess a third and final time. And this time it says the word intersection, and that x value is our other bound, so at x equals 2. So that's our upper bound for these. And now I have a brand new integral that I'm ready to go take. And so to do that, again, I'm just going to put that into my calculator. So step 1 for finding this out is I'm going to go into y1 and I'm going to put my equation that I'm trying to find the integral of. So 4x squared, 4x minus x squared minus, and then I would, again, just to keep track, you would put parentheses around that second equation. Then from there, we'll hit the graph button. And we're going to go back into that calc menu. So step 3, we're going to hit second, calc, and then we're going to choose that number 7 option, which is going to be the integral of f of x dx. From there, the calculator will ask us for our lower limit, our lower bound. That's going to be our number on bottom here. That would be 0. It'll ask us for our upper bound. We'll then type in 2. We'll hit enter, and then at the bottom of the screen, it's going to say the integral of f of x dx equals, and whatever that is going to end up being our final answer. So open back up our calculator, go into the y equals. Careful not to get too happy on the clear button because half of our equation's already in there for us. So we're entering into y1 now, the top equation, which was the square root of 4x minus x squared, minus the bottom equation. And now we'll hit graph on that. And then we're going to go through our second and hit the calc menu again. And then this time you'll choose that number 7 option in the menu, integral of f of x dx. Hit enter on that. Like we said, it's going to ask us for the lower limit now. So the lower limit on our integral was 0. So we type in 0, hit enter. Then it wants the upper limit. The upper limit on our integral was 2. So we type in 2, hit enter. It shades it in, and then at the bottom of the screen there, you can see that it's going to give us our answer. That's 1.414, and so that's going to be what we want for our value, 1.414. Oops, 1.141. Excuse me. I read that off. 1.141 is what we're looking at there, and you'll notice that that's going to be option C up above here. And so when you're doing the area between two curves, the region bounded by two curves, it's an integral setup. You need to find the top equation and subtract off the bottom, and then find your bounds. And luckily on these, it's all done in the calculator. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, please click that like button and subscribe. And also share it with your friends and anyone else you know who might be crying about an upcoming AP Calc test. You can find more videos from me, more sample AP Calc questions, and my complete AP Calc study guide over at my website, apcalcprep.com. Have a great one.